Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a phenomenal day. Taking a quick look here, of course, at Bitcoin. We're going to touch on some very important key levels here, specifically some order block data, but more importantly, this double top potential invalidation here. If we can close over this 108.5K range, that is our local bottom there on the weekly, we're going to be in pretty good shape here. So there's a nice little divergence there, but we also got to recognize we got some CME gaps that are forming here as the price continues to increase for most of these coins. So just some things to be mindful of. We don't want to be just ridiculously bullish here in this situation, but we're breaking this downtrend and essentially showing that we can break some smaller, lower time frame divergences with some nice breaks, or sorry, higher highs and higher lows rather. Okay, so good stuff there. Anyways, we're gonna check it all out. Be sure to stick around. We got an important one today. All right, folks, before we jump into the back-end data here and talk more specifically about the overall, I have a critical update for you. This is super important. It's really near and dear to my heart as far as something I get really passionate about in the wrong way. In other words, I get super pissed when there are a lot of scammers trying to scam my people. So keep this in mind. There is a good handful of these, and I'm going to try to highlight these more so in our videos just so you can kind of be aware. But there's one called Cash_Trading. That's basically really close to my current username, and they have 9 followers. So if you are one of these followers here, maybe Buckley or Matthew Rayner, Alexander, these are ones that actually follow me here, Rick Olson, the base. Make sure you unfollow them. I'm not going to have some secret account that essentially is an elite account for a few people. I just don't do that. I only have one account, and that's Cash Trading. Okay, so obviously they blocked me because they have something to hide. Here's 2 other ones just kind of give you perspective. Cash Trading with 2 eyes. Oh, great. That's awesome. That's definitely something I would do. Misspell a bunch of misspell my own label. not quite. Anyways, there's 52 followers here, and unfortunately a lot of these here also are sprinkled in. Those are people that are actually following me too. Okay, so why would you follow a secondary account of mine that I don't even I don't have? Anyways, friendly advice, disconnect that. The easiest way to identify it too is this right here, not just them misspelling the name. They don't have the blue label here. Okay, now not like it's a big deal. I pay a few bucks a year to have this, but they're too cheap to have it. So in generally, you want to always pay attention to that verified label. Okay, verified account, they probably can't verify themselves because they're scammers, right? Anyways, just want to start off with that. Kind of make sure you're aware that there's constantly going to be a thing in this world. Unfortunately, there's just a lot of piece of crap people in the world, and they try to steal money from good people like you. So don't be another statistic. Okay, don't trust everybody that you see. What you can do is trust me, of course, just in the sense that I'm always going to give you unbiased feedback. If you want to join our Trading Academy community signals, I will have one site for that, cryptocache.tech. Links down below for that. Otherwise, thank you again so much for being an amazing part of my life. We have awesome, pretty decent amount of views. Honestly, the views have come down a little bit this week because everybody's so just worn out with this garbage trading with the fundamental catalyst that I totally get it. I don't. It makes me not want to trade either. But truth is, we have been finding some good success. We took a nice little long position with ARB. Took a good 20% there on a long from 0.3, basically 0.3085 upwards of 0.3148. Okay, so good stuff there. Overall, you can make sunshine out of lemonade, or I don't know. I don't know the term. Maybe you can elaborate, but lemon out of lemonades. No, damn it. Yeah, whatever. You know what I'm getting at here. You can try to make the best of any situation if you want. All right. Speaking of the best, let's kind of look here. We got some pretty heavy buy orders between 107.8 and 108.2. So that's kind of heavily guarded to the downside there, that local support of 108. But also inversely as well at 108.5 upwards of 109. And if we've looked on the charts, and we talked about this previously, 108.5K is that macro support level for us on the weekly. We have still yet to close below that level in the last 2 to 3 months. Okay, ever since we've been in this range. So it's looking pretty good there in that sense. Awesome stuff. And this is kind of a better way to describe it here, or to show you what that looks like. In other words, here's the double top that I was talking about previously. Once more, very similar to our previous price action there, where the price action is basically rejecting off of that second high there in that range. Previously, it was roughly 108.5. What do you know? Right there at that level, that was a previous high. And now we can see that working as a new low. So right there, boom, 1 or 2 weeks there, no closure below. So far, no closure below here. So closing above 108.5K today should be a very good incentivizing scenario for us, basically letting us know that we're still in decent shape. Doesn't mean we're going to go to 150K next month. Not really, but that's still possible considering November, December are pretty strong months. So we want to be mindful of that. We're not going to worry too much about this, but just to clarify, in the last 2 cycles here, basically every time we've hit these tops and kind of pulled back, we've seen the price action range for about 2 months in this lower Gaussian channel. Okay, so that's kind of where we're at right now. We're about roughly 2 weeks in, so we may have about a month to a month and a half worth of chop. Keep in mind with the way that things are fundamentally right now, we're waiting approximately 2 weeks for the meeting to occur with President Trump and the president of China. So those things are still kind of looming in the background. There's also war in Russia. So these fundamental things are not helping much at all. Okay, and that's the main reason why we're seeing this nonsense lately. I feel, anyways, just based on the price action being so outrageous compared to most times. Now, these are CME gaps here that are forming. They're not fully filled or unfilled yet because obviously CME futures haven't opened yet. But here in a few hours, when that does occur, we may have some gaps forming. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, Ethereum is trading at about 4,039.70. So we got a little CME gap here for ETH so far started. We take a look here, approximate 2 as well. Keep in mind these are approximates for the moment. Bitcoin is trading at 104.8, and we had a CME gap close at 107.2. So hypothetically, if we were to open the week off with that little bit of momentum, we could see that get fizzled out and the price pulls back. I'm still leaning more towards 110.5 or 111,000 as a close approximate as our next local resistance, and we'll talk about that on the charts. But quickly to note before we get there, let's touch on this, the dominance here too. And to speak on this too as well, I'll try to make another video regarding this because on YouTube, you were asking a lot about if I can make videos based on Bitcoin, stablecoin, altcoin dominance. Majority of the votes came through with that, but also alt season market cap. So, thanks again for the votes. But to clarify on this here, just to make it really simple for you, I do have a cheat sheet in our Discord as well that might make things a little bit clearer with Bitcoin dominance, but generally, the concept here is that when Bitcoin dominance goes sideways, most altcoins will perform similarly in that way. In other words, as long as we see Bitcoin dominance go sideways and Bitcoin price go sideways, alts respond positively to that. And then generally speaking, you'll see alts start to pump, which we're seeing here so far, if Bitcoin price goes up and Bitcoin dominance goes sideways. So that's usually a good sign here. But keep in mind, this is a Sunday, right? This is not a off to the races kind of day. This is a trade with super caution day. Granted, you kind of have to have that premise or that foundation every single day of your life now in crypto, just based on how ridiculous things have gotten. But for the most part, Sundays and Saturdays are, you want to watch your trades a lot closer because they're less safe, and these dumps can occur and the pumps can occur a lot faster. In fact, we got an unusual buying activity alert at like 2:30 this morning for billions of dollars, and the price pumped up and immediately sold off right before that too. So just a bunch of nonsense. I'm glad I sleep through it sometimes, but it's so upsetting to wake up to just an upside down trading environment sometimes. Anyways, all that being said, liquidation data, we can see over the last 24 hours, there's roughly 109.5 is the upper range of that liquidation. Last 7 days, we can recognize 2 as well. Pretty synonymous there in that way. The last week's worth of liquidation is pretty heavy in the upper 109s. So once we sweep that level, the 109K range, then we have higher propensity for the price to pull back shortly after that. Once again, 109.5 is that average number, that delta we're seeing on all time frames. So we don't really need to note anything here. There's just a little bit of liquidation here close at about 109K as well. So that's kind of the 24-hour liquidation. And we look at the last 24 hours as well. We can see that there's pretty close to a 1-to-1 ratio for Ethereum for longs and shorts, but Bitcoin, most shorts got squeezed out here. So it tells us that altcoins are kind of lagging behind because Bitcoin is pumping and hitting a lot of shorts. And then, not really the inverse as well, right? For other coins, most coins are break even or like a 1.5 ratio to Bitcoin. Dogecoin might look pretty good. I might have to try to take a look at that one here later. I'll see if I can get some meme coin videos up here soon. But generally speaking, that's this is par for the course, folks. It's a Sunday, right? Last but not least here, Fear and Greed Index on a Sunday, as per usual. It's not like this is normal for a weekend, but it's normal for the circumstance. We're at 27 now, and as I've been talking about for a while, you buy the fear and sell the greed, right? So we're in a fearish market. If you have any dry powder left, feel free to invest. I do think we're reaching a tentative bottom, and within the next couple of weeks/month, I would say 2 to 4 weeks from now, we're going to have a good foundation of volume in this 100 to 110K range for Bitcoin. and we're likely to leg up from there, especially with altcoins. But for right now, there's no doubt about it. Altcoin market cap is pretty low. We're right at 1.52 trillion. Anything over 1.5 is generally favorable, but as you can see, with the outliers, with the exception of these outliers, get this: BNB and Aster are some of the only profitable coins. I wonder why, right? That's so ridiculous. But anyways, the whole point is that majority of coins are suffering right now versus Bitcoin, so it's all the more reason to consider buying them, because of the simple fact that we have that what goes down must come up scenario here for us. Okay, so let's take a look at the back end and double check some stuff for Bitcoin. We're just going to jump right into liquidation data here and just talk quickly about the open interest. We can see a heavy amount of open interest at 107. So that reinforces support, but potential for us to retest that level before the next leg up. All right, so keep in mind 107 could get swept. That's right there where that lower CME gap kind of closed on Friday's price action for CME futures. So I think it's 107.5 and some change, so right in that range. But if we can see here, liquidation delta is shifting. It hasn't reached break even yet, which basically implies that we could still pull back, but the bears are still in control, no matter how you look at it. But here's that little shelf here I was talking about yesterday. 111,000 is that area of liquidation here that could get hit next. So while we have 109.5 as that local resistance based on liquidation, we could see 111 or spike up to that level before the price pulls back. But that's also confluent with a lot of previous lows with not just I think it's our volume weighted average price with our yearly is there. We have some moving averages there. We've got our previous high working as, or our previous lows working as new highs. So let's go ahead and talk about that so you can kind of see here. This is a 4-hour time frame for Bitcoin. If you look on the right-hand side, our point of control there based on volume is roughly 111.5. Outside of that, 109.5. What do you know? Obviously, that's factoring in this previous range. If you kind of exclude that, though, we have the most amount of volume at 111.5 and 114. Okay, so just know we got a lot of resistances above us. So as we continue to progress higher and break our descending trend line, people are going to be like, oh, we're full on bullish. We're going to the moon. It's probably going to be people like this here. Take a look. We actually have a stupid thumbnails channel in our YouTube, and it's probably going to look a little something like this here. Last chance. It's happening. Final warning. Prepare now. So like these things are truly pathetic, right? But it's just kind of par for the course. It's kind of how YouTube is. Unfortunately, you kind of got to play that game. Sometimes I do it too, honestly. But the truth about this situation here is, don't just take a thumbnail for example. You got to actually understand and see what the meat and potatoes are. And for right now, this is telling us here that if we break this descending trend, we'll be more likely to continue higher, right? It's that lower low, lower high pattern being broken. But once those patterns are broken, you got to recognize key level resistances are very, very, very significant is probably the best way to describe it. Okay. All that being said, 110 to 111 is that local resistance range. We got some moving averages hanging out there. We got our volume hanging out there, and once more, our larger time frame, volume weighted average price too. I touched on that yesterday. I'll elaborate more so as the days progress here. But if we look at the daily time frame, as per usual, if we kind of zoom out here, let's take a look at our macro point of control. We can recognize that we have the most amount of volume. Drum roll, please, right here at 111. Okay, so once more, reinforcing resistance in that range. So 110 to 111 is where my money's at on wanting to consider a short position. Under the impression we don't have, Trump going off on his little phone there, talking about how amazing or great things are going to be, because he's talking with the president of China. So once again, a lot of stupid stuff can factor in, but if you can be safe and if you play your cards right, you're in much better shape. And what I mean by that is just using better risk, lowering your risk. Basically, we play with low leverage and generally low position size in our trades. That's kind of the concept right now. You can't get too crazy because these candle wicks, like we saw a couple Fridays ago, are just going to destroy you. Absolutely destroyed. Don't trade without a stop loss. It's stupid. I know it sucks when your stop loss gets hit and the price turns right around, but it's way better to have that than to have your entire account drained because you're using cross leverage incorrectly. Anyways, conversation for another day, but that's the concept there. There's no bullish divergences or convergences on daily timeframes. 4-hour time frame is converging pretty well with our money flow index increasing. Keep in mind that's mainly based on it being a weekend though, so please recognize this only factors in the last 14 candles. If you're using market cipher, please know that that comes with its inherent risks too, because money flow index is commonly misunderstood. All that being said, with this spike in money flow index, that just tells us the last 14 candles have been better than the previous 14, or the previous lag there. So these downtrends have fallen off, so it's naturally going to look really nice. So careful trusting MFI on a Sunday. That's just my personal thoughts there. But once more, that's still positive. Don't get me wrong. It's just not as great as it looks. But we're under 50 on the RSI still. But for the most part, we're seeing 6 out of 7 reasons why we're in pretty good shape here in this uptrend. But once more, disclaimer: it's a Sunday. Relax, calm down. This is nothing to write home about just yet. All right, we're still under some moving averages, and we got a lot of confluence above the price, therefore, or i.e. resistance levels. Okay, right there, pretty clear. We got a lot of resistance above the price. All right. So anyways, I'll have that available on our Twitter, Telegram, or Discord if you want to join me. Keep in mind, it's this one with the blue check mark. And obviously, you're going to see me posting day in and day out, not sporadically reposting crap that I've already made, right? So just be smart, folks. Anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at some other things here as well. Quick heads up to our traders, make sure you take full advantage of this Uptober sale here, or rephrase to as our Dumptober sale. Sale ends October 31st. Just want to make sure you're aware there's only a few slots left remaining for our permanent access, and there's also monthly options as well. CryptoCache Premium, day trades, swing trades, and trade setups are all included here, and those are provided to you through Telegram or Discord. Feel free to message me below if you have any questions, of course, but I do recommend you direct message me before so we can make sure that you have any questions, we field that together. All right, folks, let's go ahead and jump on into Litecoin, kind of see what's going on here. We're going to start with the back-end data, just get a baseline here, and just kind of recognize that the open interest range is pretty significant here right at the price point, $94. So 94 is that solid amount of area there for support and resistance in this range. And if we look at liquidation delta, we can see it was plateaued recently, but spiking here more so in the last 24 hours. So that shows that this coin was ready to pump and ready to continue higher up. I think we're more likely to continue further at this point, just based on what I see here so far. But the general consensus here is that there's a lot more liquidation above the price than below the price. And that does incentivize the price to push further up. So I think 100 to 102 might be some logical areas to consider taking profits. Those are the local highs, but also areas of confluence based on psychological resistance. And of course, some of these fib levels here too. So let's talk about that. First things first, with Litecoin, macro structure here shows us that we're consolidating nicely at our 0.618 golden pocket. So every low that we've seen outside this most recent, basically fundamental catalyst on Friday, hit that level at $90 and didn't go much lower, or basically more so $91. So that nice little area there holding as a support. And if we were to zoom in a little bit further, we can kind of see here too that we're testing our descending trend. Albeit we're overextended, and there's a decent chance we do pull back in the short term to kind of just a natural correction. But under the impression Bitcoin either goes sideways or up, Litecoin will continue to progress with it. It's looking pretty strong in the lower timeframes. 4-hour time frame gives us mostly confirming factors here, outside of the money flow index being a little off. But when we look at the point of control, $98 is that area of resistance. So please understand, we could very well come up and reject off that level, retest our local bottom, and continue higher from there. That's a natural rinse and repeat action that you'll see market makers do a lot, is reject off points of control, just based on the fact that there's going to be a lot of exit liquidity there, and we got to respect that. But Litecoin at this point looks pretty decent. I would be cautious FOMOing in here at this level as far as like a full bag. The concept here, and it remains the same. To all my traders, make sure you're using low leverage, low position size for the moment. Until we break this descending trend line, there's no reason to get too crazy with long positions. While I'm leaning more towards longs being beneficial in the next 24 hours, I do think that you want to watch them close and make sure to adjust your stop loss higher. If you're looking for a new exchange or possibly just want to help support the channel, Bitunix has got you covered. We've been partnered with this exchange for over 2 years. It's been our fan favorite for our community, and the reason why is because they take really good care of you. They offer trading reward bonuses as well as a reduction in fees. Best exchange I would recommend at this point. Link down below for more information. All right, let's take a quick look here at Chainlink, and the obvious indication here is that we have broken through our local descending trend line, and we're testing our point of control here. We see the most amount of volume or exit liquidity. So be mindful that the current range of about 1750 is a potential resistance, but breaking through that could precipitate further higher. And let's take a look at the back end here and recognize there's a lot of open interest above the price. Now that does work like a magnet in most ways, but it also tells us that we're going to see some slowing pressure there. So if we hit the $18, $18.50, or $19, even $19.50, it seems like almost every round number there is essentially that area of open interest where we're going to see some slowing pressure. So keep in mind these local highs, these previous highs, are going to work as new resistances for us. All that said, though, taking a look here at liquidation delta, we're shifting bullish, but haven't fully yet. So still a little premature, but once more, good momentum could precipitate that further upwards. Let's look at the last 3 days of trading here, just to get some better perspective on local liquidation over the weekend. And for Chainlink, it does look like majority of that has been swept. That big chunk at 1710 is totally a thing of the past now, and the price is moving higher here. So I would say 18 to 1850. Those are two areas of open interest and liquidation. Those seem like logical considerations for next targets here for this coin. We look at the daily time frame, though. There's no sugarcoating it, folks. This coin is truly bearish in the overall sense as far as the analysis is concerned. We are seeing a slight increase in RSI, of course, with money flow index seeing a double bottom. That's usually a very strong sign in the macro. So I do think Chainlink has propensity to continue higher up. We just got to be mindful that 1850 to 1950 range, we're going to see some solid resistance based on those being local highs that were that we consistently saw the rejection areas there, right? So just be mindful of that. But I would say of the coins here that we're looking at here so far today, the Chainlink does have my vote on a more propensity for further upside, at least in the short term here. But obviously, folks, you got to watch it close. If Bitcoin pulls back super hard, we're going to be in rough shape. But we can say from a macro perspective that we did double bottom so far here with this candle wick down. Obviously, if you exclude last Friday's, and then at this point here, looking pretty solid for a continuation higher. So that's a good sign. And for the most part, even though we have a lot of divergences, we have short-term convergences that should, end up shifting that macro structure. Looking pretty good here for Chainlink. All right, jumping into the macro structure here for AVAX, just want to kind of quickly highlight some resistances above us. That's our local high here, roughly at about $24. I'm rounding up, $23.75, $23.50, basically $24, that super, super significant resistance wall for us. So if we continue to progress higher, we can expect some resistance at that point, or more importantly, just consider securing profits to be on the safer side. Now, when you are taking trades, keep in mind, and every time I recommend securing profits, I'm referring to leverage trades. Like some people seem to have this in their head that they can hold a 100x leverage trade from now until infinity. The higher the leverage, the higher the margin, the more expensive it is to hold that open for longer. So just know the house always wins in that regard. So secure profits often, you'll actually do yourself a favor. Furthermore, too, looking here at open interest, we can see the current price right now, the previous low, current high of 2065 is working very strong as an open interest range. So the price is pulling towards that. That's likely to be a support for us so we can close above that moving forward. Now, taking a look here, we can see our liquidation delta has shifted bullish. We're looking pretty strong in the overall sense, basically taking that, what 1.150 million from just a couple of days ago in the red to now at break even for the amount of longs versus shorts using liquidation. So it's a good sign. It really tells us that we're shifting gears in this coin and that this current price point is probably the likely local bottom. So let's go ahead and double check the last 3 days, of course, so just be safe. And we double check here, we can see 21 upwards of $22, that chunk of liquidation above the price. But most of the local liquidation has been swept over the weekend at 20.5. So 20.5 being that previous area of resistance based on liquidation tells us that that could very well be the new support level for us. Okay, so we got a lot of cool stuff here actually on the not only the macro for resistance and understanding that, but more so the current bottom here is tentatively in. So that's kind of where we're at there. Daily time frame, there's nothing hidden or amazing here. There is a stochastic swing to the upside or convergence, which usually is a good sign, especially since it's the second. But looking here, just kind of clarify, let's make it a little easy for us to see that 20. This is basically the area of open interest right now. So open interest is heavy right at the current price point, kind of letting us know that we got a lot of support and resistance there at that level. Okay, so closing above that level would incentivize the price to push towards that $22 to $23 liquidation zone above the price. So liquidation is heavy with that point of control here locally. So I do think that we're probably more likely to push higher with this coin. We look at all the indicators in the back end, they're about the same as every other coin here today. Nothing super significant, but once again, when you're kind of looking for opportunities, you want to see how the coin's performing versus Bitcoin, which we can actually do that now. If we look at this here, let's go ahead and double check AVAX and quickly just see that, it's pretty similar. It's very much a synonymous trade scenario here. So if Bitcoin goes up, AVAX will continue higher as well. That's a simple way to understand it, right? So it's nothing like super amazing, but the truth is this coin has better indications on the larger structure and the backend data than most other coins that we've looked at so far. So I'm leaning more towards a continuation higher for this coin to that 22 to to a $23 range. That's a potential reality for us here. Just make sure, again, you are securing profits when you can. Let's quickly double check the descending trend here. I think we are getting close to breaking, which we are, essentially above the local descending trend. So once again, just another short-term confirming factor, but you got to recognize macro structure is still pretty poor, okay? All right, there's no sugarcoating it. Most coins that you take in trades with right now are higher risk, but once more, I think the altcoin dynamic is shifting right now, and we're starting to see that short-term continuation. If Bitcoin dominance can stay down like we identified earlier in the video, then I think we're in pretty good shape here to see altcoins continue to surge. Okay, so mostly good stuff here for this coin. Quick heads up to our traders, make sure you take full advantage of our Dumptober sale going on until the end of the month. We have a few slots left remaining. Our most popular feature here is our permanent access. Make sure you take advantage of this, of course, if you want monthly subscriptions as well. That's also a good feature for you. But the main concept here is that you're provided with swing trades, day trades, and my trade setups to let you know specifically why I take the trades that I take in the first place. Everything is explained, as well as a trading university too. Be sure to check it out. If you have any questions, comment below, or more importantly, just reach out to me direct with the contact information in the comments. All right, folks, let's take a quick look here at ICP and double check a few important factors here, starting with the macro structure, and we'll jump into the backend data here in just a moment. The key takeaway is that we're in a significantly large descending trend. We are double bottoming here so far, but that's really the only outlier that I can see at this point that tells us we're in decent shape at the $3 range. So the best way to understand it here is that the macro structure looks quite poor. It actually looks worse than most other coins currently, and most other coins look really bad on the daily time frame. So no reason to sugarcoat it here for you. ICP is not a great investment, honestly, at this point. But I do think, though, if we were to look on the backend data, we might be able to identify maybe some outliers. Let's double check that. First of all, when we look at 320, we can see that's the area of open interest above the price, tentative resistance, but a significant amount of support at 270, 275 below the price. So it does tell us if the price comes any lower between $2.75 to $3, the price will be heavily guarded and we shouldn't see much lower than that. Okay. Once more, this was an outrageous candle wick. That's not really a fair estimate, but it does tell us a lot that open interest below the price, reinforcing support. The thing I don't like is liquidation delta is almost plateaued here, where other coins like AVAX, Chainlink, and some other coins that I've looked at today, they're shifting that dynamic. That momentum has shifted, where ICP still is yet to see that, right? So there's still way more shorts than longs in this coin, and we can see a lot of liquidation down as low as 270. So anyone who bought that local dip may be subject to getting liquidated here soon. So just know that's generally not an awesome sign to take a long into, right? Now, if you want to average in between $3 and $2.75, I wouldn't fault you for it. That seems like actually a very logical area of consideration. But between now and then, the margin is too low of a incentive to want to consider a long. The only thing you have going for you if you're looking for a long position, and this is reaching, you should never trade on that, is that local bottom of $3. We had a double bottom here. Bitcoin was establishing lower lows, and ICP effectively established parallel lows, at least on the daily time frame. So it's a very good sign in the overall sense, showing support at 3. But outside of that and breaking this short-term descending trend line, there's not much to really write home about here. So ICP does not have my vote of confidence on taking a long. I would consider averaging in, obviously, on a spot bag if you want to consider it between now and 275. Otherwise, that's my thoughts. What are yours? Why don't you comment below, let me know. Really appreciate you being an amazing part of my life. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.